Everyone, or most people, love the Christmas story. It has a certain sentimentality about it. But when we look at the Christmas story, as I've done for many years at schools, or we've looked at them in our community carol service, or maybe at home, what they've actually done is they've mashed the Gospels together into one lovely story. But in fact, there are 4 very individual Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Mark's Gospel doesn't have anything of the infancy narrative. It begins with Jesus' ministry and public ministry. John's Gospel has the Word was made flesh, that's about it. Matthew and Luke have the infancy narratives, but they're very different. Matthew's Gospel has the 3 wise men. Luke's Gospel doesn't even mention them. Matthew's Gospel has the slaughter of the innocents. Luke's Gospel never mentions them. Matthew's Gospel has the flight into Egypt and back. Luke's Gospel never mentions them. Luke's Gospel has the story today, where they go up after 40 days of being in Bethlehem, they go up to Jerusalem. Matthew's Gospel doesn't have it. Why are there 2 different comparative Gospels? Are they telling different stories? Well, what they're doing is Matthew and Luke, Matthew is concentrating on a certain way of telling the story, and Luke is trying to tell another story to another audience. Matthew writes to the Jewish people so they'd understand the angels and the prophecies of the wise ones and the flight into Egypt and the whole Roman occupation, the killing of the innocents. Luke writes his Gospel, do you know who to? Us, the pagan Gentiles. He writes it to us. That's why Luke is so insistent about this purification. Why? Because Mary and Joseph take the child, and after 40 days comes for Mary's purification and to present the child to God. Every firstborn must be presented to God. Put up your hand if you're a firstborn here in your family. Okay. Now, you would be presented to God. The way your parents got you back, ritually, they had to pay 5 shekels to the temple priest. And if they paid the 5 shekels, you could then go home with your parents, okay? But in the Gospel, Joseph and Mary don't pay the 5 shekels. And it's very important that that's left out. Why? Because the Christ child belongs to the Lord. And he stays there. In that sense, the child is God come back to his temple, the covenant. It's a beautiful scene that is more than just sentimentality. And then Simeon, an old man in Catholic tradition, 362 years old, comes in and says, "My eyes have seen the salvation of the world. Now, Master, let me die in peace, for the light has come to the Gentiles." The proclamation to the whole world, not just to the Jewish people, but Luke writes through Simeon to the whole of the world. Now, there's another character in this gospel story who's hiding in the background. You ever notice you got those family members that hide in the background? Well, here is the old woman, Anna. She's 84 years of age, or she might be 105 years of age. And she has, from when she was made a widow, when she was about 20, spent her whole time living in the temple, fasting and prayer with God. And all of a sudden, Anna comes in and she sees the Christ child. And what does she do? She goes around, the gospel says, she went round and was telling everyone about the child. You know what's extraordinary about that? The first person to evangelize the world was an old woman, Anna. She is the first evangelist. My friends, especially the men here today, never underestimate an old woman, ever. because they are fiery people. And Anna went round saying, have you heard? The Messiah is born. Christ the Lord is here. The Gentiles, the Jews, this is our Emmanuel. The Virgin has given birth. This woman knew about the Christ child and she was evangelizing. Amen. It's so good. And throughout Luke's gospel, more than Matthew, women play an extraordinary role all the way through. Mary Magdalene, the first to proclaim the resurrection. All the way through, the women are the ones who carry the faith and proclaim it. Sometimes our church does not read the full gospel. We rarely hear about Anna. Today I read the whole gospel because I wanted you to hear this old woman of faith who believed and proclaimed. My friends, they're our family in faith. Abraham, Sarah, Joseph, Mary, Simeon, Anna, all these characters in the Bible are our family of faith. What makes a family holy? Pope Francis said, no family is perfect, just sinners. And he's right, no family is perfect. But every family can be holy. And how does a family become holy? By walking in the ways of the Lord, our psalm today. My friends, I pray for all of your families today. Walk in the ways of the Lord. Walk in the way of the Lord like Anna, Simeon, Mary, Joseph, Abraham, Sarah. All these characters said yes to God. Can we say yes and make our families holy? Amen.